It's all about truth. All of it. Every single thing. All boils down to the truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free. All right, welcome to the broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. Thank you for joining me. I haven't done this in quite a while, so please bear with me. I'm using some new streaming software, and I am currently attempting to stream to multiple accounts, so hopefully I have done this correctly. So as I said, just bear with me for 1 sec as we check to make sure we are indeed going. Let's check the Rumble. Okay, that doesn't seem to be working. Let me check the YouTube at least and see if we're going there. And I may have to restart this one. I don't even know if I'm live yet. So if you see me, maybe you could comment or something, and maybe that will pop up. Again, just bear with me as we get this going. I see some people commenting on YouTube, so apparently we are streaming on YouTube, it looks like. I think that's coming in from YouTube anyways. And please let me know in the chat, are you on my main channel right now? My main Press for Truth YouTube channel that has something like 277,000 subscribers or something like that. I just want to make sure I'm not actually on some like old backup account that I had. I see Truther1973 says, yes, we are live. Saul to Paul is there. Servicing IQ is there. TJ is there. Yes, Serving IQ says, okay, I guess we are on my main channel. Let's check and see if we are in fact going live on my Rumble account, because I'm supposed to be. It doesn't look like I am going live there, so that's unfortunate. I'm going to have to figure out how to use this restreaming software because it seems like it's only going to YouTube. Although I can't see it on my app here. So again, are you sure this is going through the main channel? Yes, main channel, says Tom Manley. Finky of the Shire, as far as I know. Main channel, yes. Escape the Matrix. All right, thank you. Working here on YouTube, on the main. Well, that's good, at least. Unfortunately, it hasn't gone through on my Rumble channel, which honestly kind of matters more these days. I don't really trust YouTube all that much, considering how much they have messed with me. As you probably know, I had this channel deleted for years and years, and only recently, like a month ago, I had the channel reinstated. But at any rate, it looks like we are going on YouTube, because I see chats and comments coming in. Let me just see if I can see it here. See, that's odd. Where I check it on my channel, it's not there. But I see comments popping up, so apparently it is. Even if I look on my phone here, it doesn't say we are live, but apparently we are. So I'm just going to keep going with this one. Hello from Denmark. 9/11 was an inside job. Have you seen my documentary film, which is the most viewed video that I have on this current YouTube channel? I think it's got over 2 million views now. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I am, as I said, using new restreaming software. I tried to connect multiple accounts, but it seems to only be going live to one of them for some reason. Maybe I could try to figure that out real quick here, guys. Just bear with me again. I would like this to be going out to my Rumble channel. Yeah, it doesn't say it's streaming to Rumble, but it says it is streaming to YouTube. Although I probably done something incorrect in the Rumble configurations, so that's unfortunate. There are 5 people waiting to watch over there. Yeah, that's too bad. Let me see if I can show you what I am looking at, and then we'll get into the news of the day. Yeah, unfortunately, here's my Rumble account with 4 people waiting to watch, and And I haven't been able to figure that out, but maybe next time. Maybe next time. But since we are apparently currently live on YouTube, I will certainly keep going with this one. I wanted to show you some of the news I've been looking at today. You got this Freedom Convoy lawyer who has been debanked by the Royal Bank of Canada. There's been no charges, no violations, just a severed account and a vanishing explanation. How becoming of the RBC, Royal Bank of Canada, has severed its ties with Eva Chipiuk. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, a lawyer who played a high-profile role during the Freedom Convoy protest, citing vague risk-related concerns and giving her until mid-August 2025 to move her funds elsewhere. We'll also look at this one. The Freedom Convoy lawyer dropped as a bank customer after cryptocurrency transactions. How hard is it to get debanked? This article asks. We'll also look at this disturbing trend that has been growing among children since the pandemic, and you'll never believe what they consider a disturbing trend is chronic absenteeism. Like, honestly, chronic absenteeism is something that truly needs to spread like a virus. You know, the schools have just been changed into indoctrination centers that is just flat out brainwashing their kids. So honestly, this is good news. We need to get more kids out of school. We'll look at this. Fluoride tablets for babies has exploded in popularity amid water fluoridation rollbacks. This is absolutely crazy. Reportedly, lobotomized NPCs are so distraught that their toddlers won't be surreptitiously fed a known neurotoxin through the public water supply that they've resorted to fluoride pills to shove down their throats, into their GI tracts, into their blood supply, and ultimately into their brains. Of course, I covered this one last year. Montreal is phasing out fluoride after a federal judge ruled it's a neurotoxin. In a historic lawsuit, there's this. Judge has ordered the EPA to address the potential IQ impacts of fluoride in drinking water. And here it is. We will look at that as well. The FDA is now planning to reevaluate fluoride supplements. Like, it's just insane that they're giving kids chewable tablets who are in places that have already removed the fluoride from the drinking supply. So now they want to give it to them in the form of pills. Britain forms an internet police unit to monitor anti-migrant sentiment online as protesters coordinate marches against illegal immigrants. The National Internet Intelligence Investigations Team is part of a new online safety act that opponents liken to a surveillance state. Of course, if you missed my video also from last year, the UK's Online Safety Act is a blueprint for Bill C-63, where censorship is about to go parabolic. Guys, we're going to talk about all of this and much more, but quickly, I just want to let you know I do have this Give, Send, Go campaign. If you guys want to contribute, it would be greatly appreciated to help save Press for Truth. In case you didn't know, I started this back in 2006. So after 19 years of doing this, it's led to many attacks, whether that be in real life while being surrounded by mobs, like Antifa, BLM, feminists, climate activists, LGBTQ community, or whether it's from institutions who have shadow banned me, blocked me, or canceled me, simply because I go against the status quo and because I'm interested in pressing for truth. And in case you guys didn't know, I am a one-man show. I do all the research, the filming, the editing, the posting. I run everything on the back end, like my website and the 8 various platforms that I upload all my videos to, and I handle all administrative tasks as well. And as you can clearly see, I'm trying to fumble through this live stream all by myself. I've only ever relied on you, the viewers, to continue doing this work, and I wouldn't want it any other way. So with your help, I can better protect myself with bodyguards while covering events. Like this upcoming Sunday, I'm going to be going to Pride Vancouver, which is one of Canada's largest Pride events. And yeah, sure would be nice to have multiple bodyguards with me there, because if you've ever seen my coverage of these events, you know how that can potentially go. And also, you can help me build a team who can help me reach more people than ever. Maybe help me manage this channel while doing stuff like this, live streams, so I could bring it to more people more effectively. Guys, if you want to help grow Press for Truth into something that can truly be a thorn in the side of the powers that ought not be, please consider making a contribution. I simply can't do this work without you. I have included a Bitcoin option. If you want to scan that QR code on the screen, you can do so. Or you can just check the top link in the description to hopefully where you can contribute like all these fine folks have done here. So let me quickly go back to the chats and make sure we are good. And by the way, YouTube has apparently reinstated my ability to get super chats. I don't know if this is correct or if it works. I haven't done a live stream on this channel since it was terminated in 2022. We can certainly talk about that as well. But if you guys have the ability to contribute super chats, please try giving it a try for me to see if this actually does work. You can just put in a small amount. It doesn't matter. If we do get over $100 though, that would be helpful because according to YouTube, there's a $100 threshold in order for me to receive anything. So once it gets over $100, they will be able to send me that money. So let's see. Somebody says I see it. I see the button for super chat. So that's a good sign. It looks like you are capable of contributing. But I don't even know if I have this correctly turned on or if it's even going to work. Because as I said, we haven't done this in like 3 years now. So it is nice to be back. As I said, unfortunately, I was hoping to be streaming to Rumble today as well. But we'll get that figured out and sorted out next time. But since apparently I am live here because I can see your comments, I'm just going to keep going on this one. So be sure to get your questions in, guys, because after we cover some of the news of the day, I want to go back to this chat here, and I'll just scroll back on through to see anything that I may have missed. Truther1973 says YouTube takes 30%. That's crazy. I had no idea. YouTube takes most of it, says Prairie. Well, that's why it's better to, as I said, contribute through other means. And this Give, Send, Go campaign is a really great way to go. Look at this. Somebody contributed $350 just yesterday, 1 day ago, saying God bless. That is absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much to that anonymous giver. Chris Brown says, Dan Bulldog Hicks. I think he means Dicks. I don't know if that's just a typo or if he wasn't aware of what my real last name is, but he says, not even a thuggery shot to the ribs can stop him. For as long as you are called, stay in the fight, brother. Thank you so much. Another anonymous giver here gave $20 saying thank you. This guy, Enrique Andre, $75, 3 days ago. Greetings from Arizona. I've enjoyed your video reports for a while now, but after watching your video on the passing of Hulk Hogan and Ozzy Osbourne on Band, I feel compelled to chip in a little and help you continue to do the great work that you have been doing for so many years. God bless you and your many efforts. So yeah, thank you to all these people. So far we've had 28 people contribute, and that's absolutely fantastic. Maybe we can get that up to 30 or 35 today. I mean, I do have like 270 something thousand subscribers here on this channel. So if any of you feel so inclined, please check the top link in the description below. All right, guys, as we said, we're going to talk a little bit about this. Freedom Convoy lawyer has been debanked. No charges, no violations, no explanations. The Royal Bank has just severed her account, citing a vague risk-related concerns and giving her until mid-August to move her funds elsewhere. According to a report by the Western Standard, Chipiuk, who has been outspoken about government overreach and institutional abuse of power, disclosed that the bank's decision followed a flagged Bitcoin purchase. I wonder what this is really actually all about. Apparently, she only tried to send like $1,000 to ShakePay or whatever it's called to attempt to buy Bitcoin. And the second time she did that, her account was frozen. And then she went in and talked to them to have it unfrozen, and then a few days later, they killed her account. So I don't know if this is actually over a flagged Bitcoin purchase or the fact that she's being outspoken about government overreach and institutional abuse of power. That's what happens to people who go against the status quo. They get debanked. They get the leftist army who just goes on a crusade to have these people shut down. That's exactly what happened to me. If you guys recall, one of the last YouTube's live streams you may have seen on this channel was when I was at that Black Lives Matter protest, and I was live streaming for 3 hours, and then all of a sudden I was surrounded by like 120 people who were attacking me. They threw a bottle at me and hit me in the head. There was like a dozen police officers who formed a circle around me, and then they arrested me for my protection. And in case you guys didn't know, I lost my GoPro throughout the melee of being attacked. So I launched a GoFundMe campaign to raise $700 to get, my GoPro back. And I was canceled from GoFundMe. They terminated my account because a bunch of leftist crazy people contacted them saying, this guy is a white supremacist, racist, and all these nonsense lies. And GoFundMe shut me down. And everybody who contributed to that GoFundMe campaign had the money returned to them by GoFundMe. They also shut down my MailChimp account, where I used to have like thousands of email lists that I could send out emails to, and that all got taken away from me in the blink of an eye as well. And in the past, I've had these leftists contact previous sponsors of mine to say, are you aware that this guy, says things negative about the LGBTQ community, and maybe you want to think twice about sponsoring this person, So I've gone through the similar debanking efforts by the left, certainly over the years. So I have an idea of what this lady is dealing with here. The transaction prompted a temporary freeze on her account and a series of questions that she described both as strange and demeaning. Though the freeze was lifted after questioning, she was cautioned to tread carefully with cryptocurrency. Soon after, her accounts were abruptly closed. The termination letter leaned heavily on regulatory obligations, stating, we're no longer in a position to continue our banking relationship with you. Beyond that, no evidence of wrongdoing nor any specific policy violation was mentioned. In fact, as I understand it, the banks don't even have to give you any reason. They can just shut you down and say, we're terminating your account. I think I read that here. Freedom Convoy lawyer dropped as bank customer after cryptocurrency transactions. How hard is it to get debanked? A lawyer who represented protesters from the Freedom Convoy and cross-examined former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in 2023 said she was unexpectedly dropped as a customer by Royal Bank after making a couple of cryptocurrency transfers. Yeah, right. On July 23rd, Eva Chipiak posted a copy of a letter with the subject line, termination of banking relationship. She posted that on LinkedIn, which she said was sent to her by RBC, where she said she had her account frozen for, she had her account for about 5 years. And she said in an interview that the letter that let her know the bank was severing their relationship with her, also known as being debanked, followed 2 transactions with the cryptocurrency platform ShakePay. Again, this sounds like an excuse. After careful consideration, we regretfully advise that the recent activity in your accounts is outside of RBC's client risk appetite, the letter said. Consequently, we're no longer in a position to continue our banking relationship with you. She's since taken her business to other banking financial institutions. But again, I think what's outside of their risk appetite is more likely the fact that, she's outspoken about government overreach, about institutional abuse of power. She was, running the show for her connection to the convoy organizers, Tamara Litch and Chris Barber. That certainly played a role, I would say. She declined to speculate on that, though she did acknowledge that in today's political climate, certain names may be flagged or monitored more closely, whether justified or not. Again, I've had similar things happen to me simply for people not liking the things that I have to say. I have a different opinion than some people, and that causes little snowflakes to want to run off and start claiming to organizations like RBC and like GoFundMe in my case, making up lies about things that I'm not in order to get me terminated. And it worked. It worked for them in the terms of GoFundMe. I'm not allowed to use GoFundMe. That's kind of part of the reason why I've moved over to Give, Send, Go, which is a really far better platform anyways. They're really a great bunch of people there. But as it says, she simply opened up a new account with a credit union, and she's currently exploring legal remedies, and I hope I hope she takes it to them, because it's just absolutely ridiculous. It's not the first time Canadians have seen their banks used as tools of enforcement. Following this 2022 protest in Ottawa, authorities targeted financial supporters of the movement, freezing accounts and digital wallets en masse. I'm pretty sure there was, like, don't quote me on this, but maybe 700 accounts that were frozen during that, or something like that. I ended up interviewing the guy from Druthers about the fact that his account was frozen because he showed up there to donate money to some of the truckers, and before he could even get a chance to do so, he discovered that his account was frozen. You can look that up on my site. Just look for, freezing accounts and Druthers, and you'll find it. On February 14th, the same day the government invoked the Emergencies Act, Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland publicly confirmed account seizures, effectively linking banking powers with political aims. That same day, correspondence between Sabia and Freeland revealed concerns about public backlash and reputational harm to financial institutions. Now, in case you weren't aware, Mark Carney was actually behind the move to convince Chrystia Freeland that this is what should take place, that the bank accounts ought to be frozen on these Canadians who have done literally nothing wrong. All they had done was donated to the convoy. And some of them didn't even get a chance to donate to the convoy. They just wanted to donate to the convoy. And for that, they had their accounts frozen. By the way, I'm sure you already know Chrystia Freeland and Mark Carney are Bilderberg insiders. I was there last year in Sweden, documenting the attendance. Chrystia Freeland was there, for example. The year before, I was in Spain and captured, Mark Carney being there on film. That's where I correctly predicted that he was going to become the next Prime Minister of Canada. Well over a year ago in Spain at Bilderberg. I said that on video and saying, if Bilderberg allows this man to become Prime Minister, he is slated to be the next Prime Minister. And here we are. And in the previous years, in Portugal and before that, I documented Chrystia Freeland, attending, and Mark Carney's attendance. So those guys have been behind the scenes for a long time. And in case you didn't know, that's who's been pulling the strings on all this stuff. So I wouldn't even be surprised if they are involved in the debanking of this lawyer, because of the fact that she's gone against everything they've said. So it's just pretty wild. LG says, same in the U.S. Banks. When you open up an account, you agree to regulations of the bank, aka the Treasury. Pauline Martin says it's all about that single Nazi flag. The guy who did that is like the one who cut down the tree in the UK. I recall looking into that, and it turns out like that guy was most likely an undercover, police officer, because that's what they do. They engage in provocateur tactics, where if you have a legitimate protest happening and you have no real excuse to shut it down, you're looking for the violence, but there is none. Well, what they do is they dress up as violent protesters. They embed themselves into the crowd, and then, you get your media shot of it, and it provides the excuse to shut it down. I exposed that in my film right here, Into the Fire, with undercover police officers posing as black bloc rioters, smashing their own police cars in masks, and then providing the excuse to clamp down on the entire protest. I also documented that in an earlier film that I made called The Nation's Deathbed, where I was right there at the time of the Security and Prosperity Partnership protest in 2007, I believe it was. And there were undercover police officers working for the Sûreté de Quebec police who dressed up as violent protesters with rocks in their hands, banging their rocks against the riot shields. And then when the crowd figured it out, and there was this one labor union guy who pulled the masks off of these guys to reveal who they were, knowing that they were undercover police, the police then famously dove behind the police line, again, to get arrested for their protection. And the whole thing was exposed. The Quebec police ended up admitting that, yes, those are our police officers. And so, that's exactly what happens. Thank you for bringing that up. This is why I'm going to continue to pay attention to to the chat here, guys. I'm going to constantly be going back to this. So if you have anything interesting to bring up or any questions about anything, especially maybe my last couple of videos, the Hulk Hogan and Ozzy Osbourne video, or the video of Sean Foyt, having his shows shut down here in Canada, and having Antifa show up and all this stuff. Any questions, really, anything's, anything you want to ask me about, I will answer. I'm gonna keep tabs on this. Congratulations, you've received 100 messages today with Restream. Okay, I thought that was a comment, but that's Restream telling me, oh, you got 100 comments. Okay, great. By the way, I don't know where the super chats will pop up, because I'm using Restream's chat system for me to read. It doesn't even appear on my channel that I am live, but clearly you guys are here commenting, so I must be. But yeah, if anybody has the ability to do a super chat, let me know. Shannon Dravis just became a member. You're my first one. Thank you for that. That is awesome. Just signed up as a PFT member. I don't have any. You are the first one to do this. I wasn't even sure if that was, a possibility or not. Just like I'm not sure if these super chats are going to go through. So thank you so much for that. It's greatly appreciated. Now, I will point out that this channel has been deleted a couple of times. In early 2020, this channel was terminated. YouTube gave me no warning. I had no copyright strikes. I had no community guideline strikes. It was just in the height of the pandemic, where, obviously they didn't like some of the things that I've been saying. They shut down the channel. And then a year later, they out of nowhere reinstated the channel, to my surprise. And then like a year after that, they terminated it again in 2022, November of 2022. And then it was only just 1 month ago that I had the channel reinstated, because I saw that my friend James Corbett, after being terminated and shut down for 5 years, had his channel reinstated. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? Maybe if he got his channel back, I can get mine back. So I applied for an appeal again. I've already done like a dozen appeals over the last 3 years, all of them being rejected, but this time it went through. And miraculously, here I am. But as I said, Shannon, there's a good chance this channel is going to get terminated again. So I would strongly encourage you to go to the description of this video, to where you can see all the different platforms that I am posting on, and subscribe to me there. Whether that be Rumble or BitChute or Minds or Odyssey or Hive or Band. There's a bunch of them, but the best ones would probably be BitChute and Rumble are the best two alternatives that I have to this particular channel. Unfortunately, I thought I was going to be streaming to my Rumble page today. Let me see what's going on that. Yeah, 6 people are waiting, unfortunately. But I'm going to have to figure that out next time. Again, another reason to maybe, contribute to my efforts to be able to do so. I would love to be able to hire people to help me with this kind of thing. But as I said, as it is now, I am a one-man show, so it is what it is. We're just going to continue on as we are. So, yeah, let me know what you think about this debanking of this lawyer. Do you think it has anything to do with her Bitcoin transactions? Or is it more likely that it's because of the fine work she's been doing at exposing just what actually went down at the Freedom Convoy? Let me know, and we'll talk about it. I said we're going to look at this, the disturbing trend that has been growing among children since the pandemic. Chronic absenteeism surged to unprecedented levels at schools across America during the coronavirus pandemic, and it remains at a disturbingly high levels. Even now, there's nothing disturbing about high levels of absenteeism in today's modern schools, which are really just purely indoctrination centers where they're brainwashing kids into thinking, like, for example, that they could possibly be born in the wrong body. None of them are taught any skills that they could take out into the real world, into the workforce. It's just a flat-out brainwashing indoctrination center. The Department of Education defines chronic absenteeism as students missing 10% or more of the school year. Let's get that up to 100%. Homeschooling is by far the only way to go. Again, you just go to any public school these days and you're going to see like transgender flags everywhere, BLM flags and stuff like that. It's again, like I said, it's blatantly indoctrination centers. And yeah, we need to get that number up from 10% to 100%. And I know that's easier said than done for a lot of people because, in this day and age, like both parents need to work just to be able to survive, to be able to buy groceries and pay rent and stuff like that. So I get it, but aren't your children the most important thing, like essentially in the world? Like the nuclear family unit is something that needs to be protected, and shipping them off to these indoctrination centers for 8 hours a day, like, is just one of the worst things that you could possibly be doing. Again, I'm not, judging or talking down on anybody who does it. I understand, but please do whatever you can to get them the heck out of there because it's absolutely paramount. Absenteeism has dropped to 19%, but student absences are more common and more extreme following the pandemic, according to a study by the American Enterprise Institute. The latest data, which includes figures through March of 2025, shows absenteeism rates still remain 50% higher than before COVID. Absenteeism declined 0.3 points since last year, but experts warn that the current rate will take at least 2 decades for students' absence rates to return to pre-pandemic levels. Hopefully they don't. Again, hopefully this just increases from 10% to 20% to 50 to 100 as the education system and these indoctrination centers hopefully just fall apart with people homeschooling everywhere. Educators are trying to incentivize students to come back to school, with some districts even paying students for their attendance. That's how desperate they are to get them into these brainwashing indoctrination centers. Others have encouraged teachers to have attendance counts towards grades or limit the number of assignments that can be completed online, according to the Boston Globe. And honestly, a lot of what this is stemming from is also kids being just infatuated with these things. This is another major problem here. And if you guys don't have, one of these things on yours, I would strongly encourage you to get these because in this current age of AI and like the way that they are using these to monitor not just your eye movements on what exactly you're looking at. Like, for example, if there's a whole montage on Instagram of 20 different pictures, the phone knows exactly which one you are actually looking at. But beyond that, they're actually getting into the technology of being able to decode your brainwaves and essentially read your mind and figure out what you're thinking, and then be able to make predictions about the kind of things that you are going to think about. Like, they know, like the phone knows you better than you know yourself. So it is kind of scary, but that's what kids are using. There's a reason why Bill Gates and Steve Jobs restricted their kids and had limited access to their kids owning and using these particular devices. Like, what do you think they knew that we potentially don't? So I think that's another reason why we're seeing this. Kids dropping out and just being too preoccupied with, like, being on their phones instead of going to school. But ideally, the schooling should be taking place at home anyways. But speaking of kids, like, now they've got these fluoride tablets. Fluoride tablets for babies are exploding in popularity amid water fluoridation rollbacks. So if you haven't seen my video about Montreal phasing out fluoride after a federal judge ruled that it's a neurotoxin in this historic lawsuit, make sure you check it out. I uploaded this last year when this channel was not a thing, so there's probably a good chance you haven't seen that one. A federal judge has ruled that fluoride is a neurotoxin in a huge historic lawsuit. And because of this, Montreal will now be phasing out fluoride for the West Island by 2025. In this video, Dan Dicks of Press for Truth covers the latest news on the pushback that's happening with water fluoridations in cities all over the world, because this judge ordered them to address the potential IQ impacts on children. Like, I'm sure viewers of this channel have already known for a long time that it's dumbing down society, but now we have the scientific evidence. Here, federal court orders EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, to take regulatory action addressing fluoride risks in drinking water. And what are those risks? On September 24th, a federal judge ordered the EPA to take regulatory action to eliminate the unreasonable risk to the health of children posed by the practice of water fluoridation. The plaintiffs argued that fluoride poses risks to human health, particularly neurodevelopmental harm in children. The court found that the EPA had failed to adequately address these concerns under the Toxic Substances Control Act. As a result, the EPA will either have to appeal this decision or revisit its fluoride risk assessment. More information can be found here. And so now you've got the FDA planning to reevaluate these fluoride supplements. And you got to be, again, pretty brainwashed to think that, oh no, the state took fluoride out of our public drinking water. Let's just start giving our kids pills so they can take fluoride. It's absolutely insane. Scientists pleading fluoride's case at a public meeting hosted by the Food and Drug Administration last Wednesday were given a cold reception by the agency's new drug czar. George Tidmarsh, who became director of the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research just last Monday, didn't seem convinced of the benefits of ingestible fluoride supplements for children who live in areas with low or no water fluoridation. Like, that is the absolute thing you'd be hoping for your kids, is zero fluoride. And here you have some parents who think, oh man, there's zero fluoride, let's just give them some pills so they get that fluoride in them. I mean, how's that going to help their teeth? We've got to look at a risk-benefit analysis. And since this isn't approved, it's never been through the rigorous FDA process of saying there's benefits that outweigh the risks. Tidmarsh told NOTUS about the fluoride supplements, and if there's not, then we should probably act. Yeah, I would say so. When asked if the FDA would reanalyze the data on fluoride supplements, Tidmarsh said, "That's what we'll do." But many in this meeting's attendance disagreed with this new CDER director. "We do know what the safe dosage of fluoride is," said James Becker, a dentist and associate dean of University of Utah School of Dentistry. "Any data that refutes the benefit of fluoride is either something taken out of context or flawed data with some kind of extreme level of fluoride that's being tested." I mean, he says, we do know what the safe dosage of fluoride is. Well, how is any kind of safe dosage being monitored when, for example, it's in the water supply? I mean, how much is too much? What if you're drinking like way more than what is the daily recommended dose of what they say is the fluoride's daily recommended dose? Like, it's forced medication and there's no way of monitoring the dosage. So this is just a ridiculous thing to say. We know what safe dosage in fluoride is. Ingestible fluoride supplements are prescribed by pediatricians and dentists to children who drink non-fluoridated water. While these products have not been approved by the FDA, the agency has turned a blind eye to them for decades, and they're recommended by medical organizations like the American Academy of Pediatric Dentistry. In May, the FDA announced that it would act to remove ingestible fluoride products from the market. The agency cited studies that show that ingesting fluoride alters the gut microbiome, though the scientists who conducted this research called it inclusive. Other studies have suggested an association between fluoride and thyroid disorders, weight gain, and even possibly decreased IQ. And that's the big one, guys. That's what we have known has been the case ever since it was introduced into the public water supply like many, many decades ago. And yeah, society has largely been dumbed down as a result of it. I'm thankful to be in a location here in British Columbia that doesn't fluoridate its water. So I'm really really glad about that. And if you are one of the lucky ones too, good for you. Congratulations. Let's just not move into the area of taking pills to supplement that. It's absolutely crazy. Um, TJ says I sent a super chat. Thank you so much for that, TJ. Let me check on my app on the YouTube app to see if it even shows that we're live yet. Um, yeah, it still doesn't. But so I don't even know how to see that super chat right now unless I scroll up and see it in this Restream chat service here. But I don't. So I'm not sure what you may have said, but thank you so much for that. Again, this is a good test for me to be able to figure out if this is working, and apparently it is. But as I said, I don't even know if I'm going to get that money. There is $100 threshold that I have to meet before I find that out, and so we'll see. Dan, make sure you have a live chat on instead of top chat. Um, Again, even within the YouTube settings, it doesn't even show that I'm live right now. Um, so yeah, I'm not sure how to change that right now. Let me go from top chat to live chat and see if that actually did anything. But it doesn't show, that I'm live right here. But obviously I am because I see the comments coming in on Restream. And again, this is new software I'm using. I haven't quite figured it out, obviously, how to do it correctly because I was supposed to be streaming to multiple platforms today, but that apparently is not working. But at least I'm here with you guys on this YouTube channel, which again, I will remind you, is potentially going to be terminated, at any minute now. It could happen at any time, so be sure that you are subscribed to me elsewhere just in case. Let's see, Shannon, you're a legend. Yay, Shannon. Yes, this is Shannon has joined as a member. So thank you so much for that. You're my first one. Didn't even know that was a possibility until just now. You are awesome, Dan. So thankful for your stand for Jesus. You give us hope. Well, thank you for that. Yes, I hope you've seen my couple of recent videos about Sean Foyt, who is being majorly persecuted right now on his cross Canada tour. Apparently, he's coming to Kelowna and Abbotsford here in British Columbia, so I think I should go cover that event. Maybe see if I can get an interview with the guy and document any kind of counter protesters that show up to this thing. Which in BC, there's a pretty good chance there's going to be a large protest, so I really think I should go to that. But let me check what else we have going on here in the chats. During the COVID lockdown protests in Denmark, we had signs saying undercover cops with a big arrow on pointing them out. We got our butts kicked by the police 2 hours later. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Perleth. Not sure how to say that, but yeah, good on you for exposing the police agent provocateurs for who and what they are. That's exactly what we have to do. That's what I did in this film, Into the Fire. Obviously, if you guys haven't seen it, it's probably my greatest piece that I've directed and produced and made all the music for. If you have never seen the making of the music soundtrack stuff, just look that up on my channel as well. Fun stuff. Okay, let's see. Truth is forbidden, says Martha Duncan. Again, thank you, Shannon, for your contribution. Everybody is giving you the big thumbs up there. Holy Parish of Freedom says yours and Corbett's. Yes, both of our channels have been reinstated. In fact, it was after James Corbett got his channel reinstated that I reached out to him. And I was like, hey, James, how did this happen? And he's like, actually, I'm going to be talking about it in an upcoming podcast tomorrow. But I'll tell you, basically, for the first time in 5 years, I applied for an appeal. And like within minutes, the answer came back. And he was supposed to say why he thinks the appeal should be looked at, and all he said was something like, my channel was deleted unjustly or something to that effect. And then within minutes, they reinstated his channel. So I was like, hey, maybe I should try the same thing. And so I did. And for me, it didn't happen within minutes. It happened like 13 or 14 hours later. It was the next day that all of a sudden, boom, this channel came back. And I was like, oh, okay, surprise, surprise. And it's monetized as well, to my surprise, where now I can apparently get, super chats and people can sign up to join like Shannon did. Again, thank you so much. You're the first one, so be interesting to see where that goes. Have you ever done a deep dive into the dairy cartel and supply management? No, I've certainly covered that over the years. I remember there was, I can't remember the farmer's name, but a guy who was selling raw milk and was essentially being shut down for doing so. And I did a big piece on that, and I covered kind of a little bit about the dairy cartel situation, but certainly not a deep dive. Broken Gills, guys, Gillis. I don't know how to pronounce that either, but thank you for the question. But no, maybe it's time I do a deep dive on that because that's a big thing. That's a serious thing going on. Let's see. Howdy, says Lamb's Grace. Hello. Nice name. I like that handle you've chosen for your YouTube channel. The tipping point may very well be to see if yours and Corbett's remains once the next big orchestrated event occurs. Yes, good point. That's why I strongly encourage you to subscribe to me on BitChute and Rumble. And I think I'm on like 9 different video sharing platforms. Band, Hive, Odyssey, Minds, Rumble, BitChute, probably forgetting a few, but I think the best YouTube alternatives are going to be BitChute first and foremost, and then Rumble. But, as I understand it, Peter Thiel is an investor in Rumble, and it's tough to say just how decentralized it is and where that's going to go in terms of censorship in the near future. So definitely subscribe to me there. You can find the link in the description because, again, there is a good chance that something's going to happen here. But nothing's going to happen to me over at BitChute. I can guarantee that. The guy who runs BitChute, Ray, I know him personally, and he actually set up my channel for me in like 2014, knowing what was going to come. And so, I've been very appreciative of that guy and that particular platform ever since. Tell them to come to YouTube, says Truther1973. I don't know about that, man. I mean, I am here because, well, I have like well over 250,000 subscribers here. So, I don't want to just preach to the choir on these other platforms. I want to reach people who we need to reach, and most people who need to hear the kind of stuff that I talk about are on YouTube. I just had to face the facts. But I got to say, one of the most frustrating things since coming back to YouTube has been all the comments that say, wow, I haven't seen you in years. Man, I missed your content. I'm so glad you're back. And it's like, oh man, I've been posting every single day ever since I've been off this channel, just not here. So it's not that I went anywhere. A lot of people think I just disappeared from the whole movement for 3 years. It's like, no, I've been banging out solid content all this time. But if you're only relying on YouTube, you weren't getting any of it. You were unfortunately missing out. And yeah, that's one of the more frustrating comments that I used to get is people saying, wow, you're back. You disappeared 3 years ago. It's like, no, I just disappeared from this particular platform. And again, guys, that could happen again at any minute. We've already said some controversial things in this particular stream, so I might be on the chopping block as soon as I get off the line here. So again, it's so important that you subscribe to me on these other channels. BitChute is presently suspended in the UK. Not exactly. BitChute left the UK by their own choice. I interviewed the founder and creator of BitChute about just that. Let me see if I could find that for you real quick. I'm just using the search feature on my website to, oh, well, let me show you that, to type in BitChute UK, and let's see if I could find that. By the way, guys, this is a great place to go to, you know, if you just want to stay up to date with what I'm doing. Like, if I do get terminated from YouTube, from this particular channel, well, if you just happen to check, you know, my website every day, you're certainly not going to miss out on things. So here it is. BitChute exits the UK over Online Safety Censorship Act. This is what integrity looks like. The UK's Online Safety Act has forced the free speech platform BitChute to either violate its users' privacy and free speech rights by engaging in censorship or pay massive fines that would cripple the company. So, BitChute made the difficult yet important decision to end operations in the UK. And I suggest this is what integrity looks like. In this video, Dan Dicks of Press for Truth speaks with the founder and CEO of BitChute, Ray Vahey, about the censorship that his platform is dealing with and why leaving the UK was the only viable option when it comes to maintaining free speech in a free society. So guys, if you haven't seen that particular video, I'd strongly encourage you to check it out. Again, it's me interviewing the founder and creator of BitChute about his reasons for leaving the UK. So thank you for bringing that up. That reminds me of this story. Britain forms an internet police unit to monitor anti-migrant sentiment online as protesters coordinate marches against illegal immigrants. And this is behind a paywall, so unfortunately we can't look at the article together, but the title speaks for itself. You've got Britain forming an internet police unit to monitor anti-migrant sentiment as protesters coordinate marches against illegal immigrants. That's the main point. We're talking about illegal people here. And so they're setting up a police unit to monitor anti-migrant sentiment. No. Nobody's talking about being anti-migrant. These people have a problem with illegal migrants. There's a huge difference. But they have the internet police unit monitoring these groups as these protests continue, and they're coordinating marches against illegal immigrants. So it's just absolutely insane. I did put together this one. The UK's Online Safety Act is a blueprint for Bill 63, where censorship is about to go parabolic. In the United Kingdom, you can now be arrested, not for tweeting, but for retweeting a harsh opinion if it is deemed that the words that you shared are likely to potentially add to racial tensions, even if your intentions are good. And it's important to note that words like likely to and potentially add to is pre-crime talk, something that may or may not happen in the future. Bill C-63 is similarly all about censorship, but it's disguised as a bill to protect children from online harms. In this video, Dan Dicks of Press for Truth warns that we are currently what we're seeing in the UK could soon be coming to a Canadian city near you. So yeah, I would strongly encourage you to check that one out, because if you're viewing this channel and you have only been viewing this channel, you would have missed that one, because this channel did not exist in September of 2024. So again, another example of the types of videos I've been putting out that you'd be missing if you were only tuning in here on YouTube. So let me go back to the chat and see if we have any more questions or comments, and we'll address those all again. And again, thank you for anybody who does contribute to the super chat. If that ends up getting up to over $100, I will know if I'm able to, you know, cash that out or not. Yes, you are correct, says Shannon. I left teaching and pulled my kids out to homeschool years ago. Now I'm so blessed that my kids are all doing the same. That is absolutely fantastic, Sharon. That's exactly what we have to do. Lead by example. And it's so amazing that your kids understood the benefits of doing such a thing and now are doing it for their own kids. And I would suggest in this day and age, in 2025, it's becoming more important than ever. I mean, when I walk around here in town, I live in Squamish, British Columbia. There's a couple of schools, and in particular, there's a daycare, like pre-kindergarten place, where they have pride and transgender flags all across the front of the thing. And this is a preschool daycare place. And I'm like, man, oh man, people are sending their kids before school to places like that. And there's a school just down the road from me, not far from where I live, where it's the same thing. Right immediately upon looking in through the doors of the entrance, there's all these, flags. And from what I could see from the street was a pride flag and a BLM flag. And this is probably, I think it was a couple of years ago, but still, it just goes to show just how bad these places have gotten, and why it's so incredibly important to homeschool. Plus, you're going to be able to teach your kids so many much more useful things that they can take out into the real world, as opposed to all the nonsense that they're learning in these brainwashing indoctrination centers in the first place. So, yeah, so awesome that you did that, Shannon, and that your kids are following your example. That's fantastic. We need exactly more of that. And if you guys are just tuning in, the reason why we're talking about that is because this article is calling it a disturbing trend that has been growing, a chronic absenteeism. When here I am saying, no, the fact that 10% or more are missing school, or 10% of the school year, honestly, we that should be up to 100%. We got to get them out of these indoctrination centers and back at home, learning from their actual parents, like what Shannon did. So that's just fantastic. It's not racist to speak out about this mass invasion, says Prairie. Absolutely, it's not. And that's one of the biggest charges that people get when they suggest anything of the sort. And honestly, the word, racist or white supremacist is losing all meaning, because they point that finger at anybody and anyone who suggests that there is an issue here with illegal migration, or just the amount of migration coming into the country in the first place. I mean, I've talked about that a lot on this channel. And the fact that, like, for example, Christian Iraqis and Christian Iranians and Christians who are in war-torn countries and in the Middle East, they have an unbelievably difficult time with coming over here. Like, it is really, really difficult. They go through so many hoops in order to try to get their families over here. And there's a reason for that. Meanwhile, anybody who is not Christian and who is coming here, not even necessarily from a war-torn country, are not only like not vetted at all, but they're given like a welcoming embrace, and they're given money and subsidies and free housing and hotel stays and food, and it's just absolutely insane. It's wrong. It's flat out wrong. And like you said, if you suggest that you have a problem with this, you'll be branded as a racist. But obviously that's so far beyond the truth, it's ridiculous. I'm sure you guys saw when I was it started at a feminist, I don't even remember what the rally was, but I got surrounded by a bunch of feminists who were calling me a white supremacist. And I'm like, what evidence do you have? Like, show me anything I've ever said that would, make you think I'm racist or a white supremacist. And all of them obviously had nothing. It was just an accusation. And then, like, a week later, I went to this BLM rally, and I got surrounded by people saying, aren't you the guy from this video from, like, last week where people were calling you a white supremacist? I'm like, yeah, that's me, when people were falsely accusing me of being a white supremacist. And boom, I got surrounded by this mob think mentality that kicked in. And as I said, you may have seen it, but I was surrounded by like 120 of them or so. I had a ring of 12 or 15 police that had to form a circle around me. And then they eventually ended up attacking me, throwing a bottle right at my head. And then the police had to arrest me for my protection. And that's when the stream ended. But I was so glad I was able to get all that live on stream. But that's one of the last live streams I've done until this today. Because, as I will reiterate, my channel was terminated without good cause, without any warning, no copyright strikes, no community guidelines strikes, just poof, gone, flip of a switch. Dan, you're done on this platform. Goodbye. And again, I'm going to reiterate it time and time again on this channel that could happen again. It most likely will happen again. As someone said, when the next big thing occurs and I start telling you the truth about what's happening, it's very likely this channel will be gone. So as a backup, as a hedge, please subscribe to me on BitChute and Rumble and any other platforms that you like. I like Odyssey, actually. So BitChute, Rumble, and Odyssey are I would say, the top 3 alternatives to this YouTube channel. If we do not stand up for our freedom, it will be gone, and it will be our fault, says Mr. Green Thumb Ottawa. Yeah, exactly. Silence is compliance, as they say. And, you know, it's that old classic, oh, first they came for these guys and I didn't do anything because I wasn't a member of that group, and then they came for these people and I stood by and did nothing because I wasn't a part of that, and now they're coming for me. And that's exactly what people have to consider here. So yeah, thank you for that. Good point. Our daughter, Holy Parish of Doom, says our daughter dropped out and took her GED, or whatever they call it now. Good. Again, the more kids who get out of these indoctrination brainwashing centers, the better. So that's awesome. Glad to see more faith-based content. Good for you. Amen, says Droopy Dog. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something that's certainly not going to slow down here on this channel. I'm going to continue to profess my faith and, you know, explain to people, you know, what I believe. And years and years ago, I thought it's not something I want to mix with, you know, politics or you know, just stuff I can prove with, you know, facts that I can show you and this and that. But over the years, I realized, like, if I'm not discussing what I see as the bigger picture, which is that we are in a spiritual warfare, a spiritual battle, then what am I doing this for? If I'm not telling you what, you know, I believe the truth is. And so that's something I'm going to continue to do. And obviously Jesus made the bold claim that I am the truth, the way, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. And I was so, like, impressed by that statement that when I had to come up with a name for my channel in 2006, I chose Press for Truth, with it having like a double or triple meaning. Obviously, the obvious ones are obvious. Press, like as in the press, like the media, for truth, like let's not get lied to. So be the media for truth, which is the obvious one. But the one people may not realize is the fact that Jesus said, I am the truth. So when I say press for truth, it literally means press on towards Jesus. So a lot of people may not realize that that's the other meaning to this channel. And, you know, it's about time I start talking about that a heck of a lot more, because it's of the utmost importance. So thank you for that. Racism is not always negative, says Kenzie Kraken. All other ethnicities are celebrated for protecting their culture and effectively their race. Yeah, I know. You see it with the Spanish people, especially. Like, they're very, very, very proud in Mexico, for example. And nobody looks at that as if it's some sort of racist thing. You know, I went down to Boston once because they were having a straight pride parade. The parade ended up not going through, but just the idea that they were having a straight pride parade was interesting to me. So I went there and I was interviewing people on the streets, and one girl I interviewed started saying, you know, just the notion of white pride has gone too far. Like, the pendulum has swung to the point where you can't even suggest such a thing anymore without people being like, oh, shut him down, cancel this guy. And it's like, just as you said, why are all these other ethnicities and groups able to celebrate their own culture when we can't? It's certainly hypocrisy. It's a double standard, and I'm with you on that. Absolutely. Wow, says mandatory myocarditis. Not sure what you're referring to, but wow, I agree. Gary says thought crimes incoming. Yeah, exactly. If we follow the way of the UK Online Harms Act, which I do think will occur here in Canada, it's going to make Minority Report look like a documentary film. You know, in case you're not aware, that movie's all about pre-thought and pre-crime, where they're going to be able to shut you down just for having the wrong opinion and just for like retweeting, for example, somebody's opinion that other people don't like that the authorities think may lead to violence or may cause somebody to act out. And that can have us shut down. That's when things are beyond scary, and we're not that far away from it. It's getting very dystopian. It says mandatory myocarditis, even more. Pauline Martin says homeowners property tax for public schools, yet I paid for a Catholic school as well back in the 90s. I would never teach my own kids, but that's just me. I mean, to each their own. There is a place for good schooling. There are private schools out there that do a good job. So that's a good point to make. You know, we have to not discount the fact that if you do your due diligence into who these teachers are, what's on the curriculum, and is this a good place that your kids ought to be going, then yes, there is a place for schools. But unfortunately, today's public schools have gone so far to the woke left that they're just brainwashing indoctrination centers. But yes, you raise a good point. Like, depending on the curriculum, depending on the teachers, depending on their motives, you could find a good place. There are good private schools out there. Obviously, they're a lot more expensive, but what is the cost you're willing to pay for your children's education? I suggest it should be, no limit, So yeah, thank you for bringing up that good point. Let's see. Holy Parish of Doom. I attended Catholic schools in the 70s and 80s, and the curriculum was actually quite progressive. Yeah, like I said, it all depends on where you are going. So let's say 90% of them today are absolute trash, but that doesn't mean there is that 10% out there, and you can find them if, again, you look into what these people are actually teaching and saying. And if it falls in line with the kind of stuff you want your kids to learn about, then that may be a good option for you. Absolutely. Gary Barrett says fluoride doubles, triples, etc. when boiled. That's interesting. I recall in Toronto going down to the water fluoridation facility and interviewing some of the people who were involved down there, and they certainly didn't tell us about that one. You're not going to hear that from the Environmental Protection Agency or the FDA either. Yeah, I didn't know that. Thanks for pointing that out. Fluoride supplements? What the hell, says mandatory myocarditis. I know. It's absolutely insane. And this is after a judge ordered the EPA to address potential IQ impacts in fluoride in drinking water. And so you have places like Montreal starting to phase it out because of the fact that a judge just ruled that it's a neurotoxin. And so in the face of that happening, you've got these fluoride tablets for babies exploding in popularity because people want to roll back on the fluoridation in their public water. It's absolutely crazy. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration appears poised to continue with the plan to ban prescription fluoride supplements at a time when many experts say that access to the products has become especially important. Most U.S. residents live in a community where fluoride is added to the public drinking water, according to federal data from 2022, but this year, Utah and Florida became the first states to ban the practice, and similar legislation has been introduced in several other states. Congratulations, Florida and Utah, for doing the right thing. Adding fluoride to the public water system started in the U.S. in 1945 by guess who? And is considered by many public health experts, the Nazis, by the way, including the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, to be one of the top public health success stories of the last century. That's absolutely bogus. This is emphasis coming from CNN. In places where fluoride is not in the drinking water, fluoride tablets or drops may be prescribed for babies and children to reduce the risk of tooth decay. Oh, man, oh, man. The people who are pushing this stuff has already far too much fluoride themselves. The child sacrifice at the altar of science, the religion of modernity, is end times kind of stuff. Among the people that would force their own children to choke down fluoride, a documented neurotoxin that's particularly dangerous to kids, still in neurological development, a fact which could easily be discovered through a cursory search engine, see by anyone who cared to look, are probably your neighbors. They're people who get to vote. They're people who get to aggressively lobby the government to force you to sacrifice your health for the benefit of the pharmaceutical profits. You or I could have lost the genetic lottery and have been born in a time and place to people who would do this to us with no effective means to resist as captive infants and toddlers. Mommy says open your face hole for the magic elixir, and you do it because you're 3 years old and you don't know any better. And if you don't, no more Sesame Street or whatever slop you've been conditioned to love. This is a Zero Hedge article, guys, if you want to check it out. Fluoride tablets for babies explode in popularity amid water fluoridation rollbacks. And also, we've been looking over this one. The FDA plans to reevaluate these fluoride supplements, and obviously for good cause, because as we saw, federal court ordered the Environmental Protection Agency to take this regulatory action against fluoride risk in drinking water. Why? Because it has potential impacts on your kid's IQ and other neurodevelopmental issues that we've already looked at. So, yeah, crazy stuff. Again, thanks for bringing that up. I use reverse osmosis water filter, says Truther 1973. Removes PFAs and fluoride. Excellent thing to do. But a lot of people don't know that your biggest organ that you have is your skin, that absorbs the fluoride just as much as if you were drinking it. So having the osmosis water filter is fantastic for your drinking water, but you got to have it on your shower, taps as well, because as I said, if you stopped yourself from drinking it, great, excellent move. But having it just seep through your skin is also an issue that people have to be aware of. Exactly, Prairie, says Kenzie Kraken. We need to start talking about Christ phobia and using it as a label. Yeah, absolutely, guys. If you go to my website and you look at my most recent video, Christ phobia and cancel culture backfires, as the #1 trend in Canada is now the word Christian. Amen for that. Sean Foyt is a speaker, author, missionary, artist, and activist who's currently on tour in Canada, but his shows are constantly being canceled by the cancel culture mob because he identifies with MAGA, he speaks out about abortion, and the LGBTQ plus cult. In this video, Dan Dicks of Press for Truth breaks down what's been happening at Sean's shows, and also why this is only actually helping the cause of spreading the good news of the gospel. So, yes, Islamophobia is a nonsensical term that has been around here in Canada for almost a decade nearly. And it's nonsensical because it implies an irrational fear of something. But as I often say, there's nothing irrational about having concerns with a culture and a religion that is directly at odds with Western Christian standards and values. So what you have here is Islamophobia not being a thing. And as you said, Kenzie Kraken, Christ phobia is a legitimate thing. I mean, just look at what happened in the wake of the residential mass graves hoax, where we saw churches being burned to the ground, left, right, and center, because people were so upset with what they thought the Catholic Church was doing with these mass graves, when, as I'm sure you're aware, not a single body, not a single anything has been recovered to this date. Even the person who discovered these mass graves with ground-penetrating radar said that the data is inconclusive. Until we have excavations pulling up actual bodies, none of this is true, but that didn't stop all the orange t-shirts and the number 215 and all this nonsense from being perpetuated into the minds of the masses, which created quite literally Christ phobia to take hold. And we're supposed to believe that Islamophobia is a thing. Just look at what's happening with this Sean Foyt guy, and you'll see Christphobia is very real here in Canada. So thanks for bringing that up. Let's see. I'll scroll through here and see if we have any more comments or questions, and maybe we'll call it. Truther 1973 says it coats the pineal gland. Yeah, I assume you're talking about fluoride, so I wouldn't be surprised about that. There's likely all sorts of kinds of horror shows in the water supply these days, says Holy Parish of Doom. Yeah, and it is obviously the fundamental thing to life. So the fact that they're going to corrupt it with fluoride and who knows what is just absolutely diabolical and just awful. So yeah, if you happen to be one of the lucky ones who are in a place like I am where they don't fluoridate your water, congratulations, good for you. That's good. And if you're not, maybe you can lobby your town hall or push for these changes in light of the fact that, like, a federal judge has just ruled that it is causing lower IQ in children. So something you might want to bring to their attention. I don't think it would be healthy for either of my kids or myself to homeschool. LOL. We just countered the indoctrination, says Kenzie Kraken. Yeah, that's something I always imagined I would do. I've been trying to have kids for a long time, but I think I'm one of these ones who have been affected by the bombardment of chemicals or who knows what. But if my kid came home from, let's say, a history lesson, I always figured I'd be like, okay, you go ahead and tell them what the paper wants to hear. If the test is asking you a question about this in regards to World War I or II or whatever, you tell them what they want to hear. But here's what really happened, my boy. Here's the truth about the matter. And again, I'm glad you've figured out how to counter the propaganda and the nonsense and the brainwashing, because that's at the least what parents should be doing, if their kids are in school. So thanks for that. But he's got a university degree, so he's smarter than us, says Chris Freestone. Yeah, I mean, if you got fancy letters after your name, like PhD or DR in front of it, people just, consider that to be the authority on everything. It was in the book Propaganda by Edward Bernays. If you haven't read that, guys, I'd strongly recommend it. But he was tasked with coming up for a way to sell more bacon, and it's a great example. He realized I could make ads that say, buy more bacon. It's good for you. It gives you reserve energy. It tastes good. All these sorts of things. He's like, but that's not very effective. What you got to do is you got to look at the psychology of the masses of society. And he realized, who do they depend on? Who do they go to for information about our health? The doctors, obviously. And he realized, if you can convince doctors to tell them that it's healthy to eat bacon, well, now you're going to sell a lot of bacon. And that was just one small example of his techniques in the book Propaganda that he suggested. This is the kind of stuff you have to do to convince people to do things. So guys, if you haven't read that book, it's not very big. It's like a pamphlet kind of size. You could read it in a day. He has so many examples of how this is done. It's a really, really good book to read. So thanks for bringing that up. Let's see. Even though we have access to the same books and studies, Chris Freestone says, considering Canada was founded on Christian principles and values, it is baffling that people want to fight against it, says Kenzie Kraken. I know. Absolutely baffling. And that's why I'm starting to speak out about the people speaking out against it. Like in my most recent video. Guys, if you haven't seen that one, definitely check it out. It talks about, how Christphobia is taking over in Canada and what we can do about that. And this is, again, one of the reasons why I'm going to show up to this guy's concert coming to British Columbia next month. Let's see. 20 years ago, I was in a dentist's face about fluoride. Maybe I should remind him, says Perleth. Yeah, absolutely. It wouldn't hurt. Bruce says, how Squamish. Beautiful, love it. Um, I have no intentions of leaving this place anytime soon. I came from downtown Toronto to this little tiny mountain town in Squamish, and I lived in a condo in Toronto for 10 years, and I loved it. I thought it was great until I moved to a small tiny mountain town in British Columbia. Now I'm like, this is where it's truly at, you know. So yeah, Squamish is great. Thanks for asking. Um, let's see. We are a culturally Christian society, and it's the reason why we are so successful and accepting of others. Yeah, good point. I mean, exactly. Like the entire nation is based on fundamental Christian principles and values. Our schools are based off of that as well, or used to be, anyways. As we've already talked about earlier, that's vastly changed in a big way. Um, let's see, Mr. Ree. I get that comment a lot on my channel for some reason. No idea what it means. Maybe you guys can let me know. Rebel News got their monetization back as well without asking for it. Yeah, I mean that's you know, I don't know that Ezra necessarily needs that. The guy is quite good at doing crowdfunding. I'm not knocking it in any way, but good for them, I suppose. Let's see. I was unsubbed from both your channels by YouTube. No, I don't know if you were unsubbed or it was just the fact that the channel was terminated and then given back and then terminated again and then given back. But even if you were unsubbed, that's more reason for you to go subscribe to me on BitChute and Rumble because I'm going to be doing these kinds of live streams there as soon as I figure out this restream system. And there's a really good chance I'm going to be deleted from this platform again sometime in the near future. I have no way of seeing right now if I do have super chats coming in or not. So if you have given me one, let me know because according to my app here, I haven't done a live stream in 2 years, as you see there. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's going through or what. I wish I could go on Rumble, but I hate the platform. Says Once Upon a Blue Moon. I'm not mega big on it either, but it is something I started using as a hedge against censorship because they are less likely to censor me there on Rumble than they are here on YouTube. So I would encourage you to subscribe to me there because, again, I may disappear from this channel, this platform at any given moment. So Rumble, BitChute, and Odyssey are my top three, I would say. So go check those out. Rumble has been improving almost daily, says Kenzie Kraken. I just need to figure out now how to stream to multiple platforms, and then I'm good to go. I got to be careful with these hand symbols. You know, it's hilarious how many people chime in on that. I've learned now if I want to say 0, I have to do it like this because if I dare do it like that, boy, oh boy, am I ever going to be attacked in the comments. Like just the other day, like I was talking and comfortably putting my hands together, my fingertips together. I do that because it's comfortable. And I think, I guess at one point, it was a little bit too much like that. And I'm being accused of being a Freemason, you know, because I touched my hands together in that kind of a way. So it's pretty wild. You know, that person, by the way, just had to do 1 second of research to see all the exposés I've done on Freemasonry over the years, and maybe they would have thought twice about commenting. But anyways, Lamb's Grace says, I despise YouTube censorship, but this platform is more user-friendly than the alternatives. Yeah, the alternatives are getting better with that. Give them patience, have some patience, give them time. They don't have the kind of funding and money that obviously YouTube has, but they're working on it. But I agree, and this is why I'm here today. I mean, this is where the majority of people who need to hear this stuff are. And this is why I decided, you know, they gave me back this channel. I've got like 270 something thousand subscribers here, so I might as well use it to the best of my ability. So that's why I'm here with you fine folks today. I'll have to check it out again, Kenzie, but it wouldn't let me create a login name or I'm too old and obsolete. So people are just talking to each other in the chat here. That's great. Lamb's Grace gives a thumbs up to BitChute. Yes, excellent platform. I know the creator and owner. Good guy. He's doing the right thing, doing the best he can. So we need to support BitChute, like big time. I should be streaming there today as well, but I'll have this figured out soon enough. Again, don't forget, I'm literally a one-man show. So this was kind of a test stream today, but as soon as I saw comments popping up from YouTube, I was like, okay, well, at least it's working in one platform, so I'll keep going. All right, guys, I may call it pretty soon. Quickly scroll through to see if we have any other big questions that we could address. Let's see. Again, Sharon, thank you so much for signing up as a member. You are my first one here to join on YouTube. That's awesome. So if anybody feels so inclined to do so, please do so. But you know, a better way to contribute with a monthly reoccurring contribution is to go right up here to the donate tab, and right here you could sign up on this Patreon alternative, because I don't know if you guys know, I used to be on Patreon and I had like over 300 patrons who were contributing on a monthly basis, and Patreon terminated my account as well. And that entire revenue stream just disappeared, and it was a huge attack on my financials. And so I ended up setting up this Patreon alternative where you could sign up for like $5, $10, $20, whatever is within your means, you could sign up for. And you could also do the same thing right here at Subscribestar. So guys, if you want to do that, these are better places to do that. You know, I have 55 people so far on Subscribestar, not exactly the 305 that I used to have on Patreon, but you know, at least it's something. It's definitely helping. So I would suggest you either sign up to the Patreon alternative here or subscribestar.com/pressfortruth. But hey, if you want to do just like Sharon did and join on YouTube, this is something new to me as well. So yeah, thank you for either one. Right on my website is best. Subscribestar is second best, and YouTube is probably third best when it comes to monthly recurring contributions. So either way, thank you so much to everybody who does contribute in that way. I honestly cannot continue to do this work without people like you, Shannon, and everybody else who is subscribed to the Patreon alternative and my Subscribestar account. It's the only way that I'm able to continue doing this stuff. All right, Andrew Simpson says, yes, we are being replaced, and it is already all set in motion. Time to think about switching game plans. Yeah, I'm going to continue to expose what's happening. I have no fear of, you know, cancellation or being shut down or canceled just by simply speaking out about this. A lot of people do have that fear, and they don't say anything. But I'm not going to stay silent. I'm going to keep speaking out about it, and hopefully I don't get canceled. But we'll see. Wonder who are the ultimate top decision makers over these selections. Not old stock Canadians. Andrew Simpson, I assume you're talking about Canadian federal elections, or I should say selections, as you have said. And absolutely, the current Prime Minister, Mark Carney, has been installed. He was selected by the powers that ought not be. He was not elected. The man has not received a single vote from a single Canadian in his entire life. He was appointed as the leader of the Liberals to replace Justin Trudeau by the Liberals, and then, you know, got in under that guise. But like, I successfully predicted well over a year ago that he was going to be the next Prime Minister, selected by the Bilderberg Group, because he's been attending for many, many years. He's on the steering committee. And so I knew that those are some of the guys who are pulling the strings. If to answer your question, who are the ultimate top decision makers? Look to Bilderberg. If you're not familiar with my coverage on Bilderberg, just use my website, the search feature on my website, to do a search for the word Bilderberg and start boning up on all my previous videos on that. I've probably got hundreds of videos because I've attended, I think, a dozen Bilderbergs or more. I started in 2006 covering Bilderberg, And I'm going to continue to go to every single one of them as best I can. Let's see. Are you Sire AI? Says Eric QN. I'm not sure what you mean by Sire AI. Maybe it's a spelling mistake for sir, but no, I am not AI. I don't even use AI. I don't even like looking at AI. Some people are going to laugh at me for that, but it's just the truth. That's where I'm at. I don't like it. I could be using it to help me create my thumbnails because, again, I'm a one-man show. I do all of these things. I come up with the titles and I write the descriptions and I create the thumbnails and I do the research. I do the posting. I do all of this. I could probably get some AI assistant to help me with this, but not interested. Yeah, I think that's what you were getting at. Gotta run, says Kenzie Kraken. Speak your mind, people. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for being a loyal subscriber. Yeah, take care. Thank you for all your contributions to this particular stream, too, with all the great comments. Take care, Kenzie Kraken. All right, guys, let me just scroll down and see what we have. Ha ha ha, Dan the white supremacist. Nah, I don't think he is at all. I know it, actually. You know what's funny about when I was being accused of being a white supremacist by BLM and those feminists and all that? There was a Reddit post, and I went to get my computer fixed at a London Drugs once, and the kid who was fixing my computer says, "Wait, I recognize you. You're Dan from Press for Truth. I'm a big fan. I watch all your stuff." And he goes, "You know what's funny about how I discovered you?" He's like, "I was on Reddit, and there was this subreddit that was talking about this white supremacist who was, needs to be shut down." And he's like, "I recognize that when people start pointing at people and calling them racist and white supremacists, they're probably saying some good things that I ought to pay attention to." So he's like, "Who is this guy that they're all calling a white supremacist?" Discovered me through that way and became a loyal watcher ever since. So yeah, that's how this stuff backfires on them. And like I said earlier, it's just losing all meaning these days. I saw that arrest, says TJ. That was nuts. Yes, it was absolutely nuts. You guys can find that on this channel. It's just a BLM rally live stream, 3-hour-long live stream, where you can see for yourself. In the lead up to me being attacked by that mob, I did nothing to incite that crowd, which is what the police actually alleged. They said so in the Vancouver Sun, in the paper they published, saying that I was an instigator for the whole thing, simply just because of my presence being there. And that's absolutely nonsense. I didn't do anything, and you can see that in the live stream itself. Bogcat Y says I was watching that live as well. Yeah, that was one of the crazier ones. Not to mention my live stream of the trucker convoy when I took a shot to the ribs with a baton from a cop. I had that, dealing with that pain for years. It's only recently not bugging me as much. That was crazy. So this particular live stream might not be as crazy as those, but next Sunday, guys, this upcoming Sunday, I'm going to Pride Vancouver. And I do plan on live streaming because I'm going to ask them some questions about, I'll just start off the conversations by what brings you here, and we'll see where the conversation goes. But I do want to ask them about the fact that Mark Carney's daughter, I might have to use different language because that might tip them off to my angle here. But I'll say, what do you think about the fact that Mark Carney, our current prime minister, has a child who identifies as non-binary? Did you guys know that? That Mark Carney sent his daughter, Sophia, who now identifies as Sasha, to the infamous Tavistock Gender Clinic. The same place that was shut down after being sued by over 1,000 families because they were mutilating and sterilizing young children as young as 4 and 5 years old, brainwashing them to think that they are born in the wrong body. And Mark Carney, in 2013, while he was the governor of the Bank of England, sent his daughter Sophia to the Tavistock Gender Clinic, and now she identifies as non-binary. So this coming Sunday, I'm gonna go to Pride Vancouver, one of Canada's biggest pride parades, and I'm gonna ask people about that, and then I'm gonna press them on what is a man, what is a woman, And as you probably already know, they cannot answer the question because it totally rips apart their entire ideology. So when I ask the question to them, what is a woman? Obviously the answer is an adult female human being. But I guarantee you the answers we're going to get is, well, a woman is somebody who identifies as a woman. It's going to be something. Now, as I said, I am looking to hire bodyguards. I want to hire bodyguards who can help protect me while I'm covering events. And I got to let you know, I did have a bodyguard, a man who's been working in the field of security for a long, long time, reach out to me and offer his services to me. So thank God at this particular upcoming Pride parade, I will have one bodyguard keeping an eye on me should this group decide to attack me like I've been attacked so many times in the past by climate action crazies, by feminists, by BLM, and the LGBTQ plus community. Hopefully that doesn't happen again, but thankfully I will have a bodyguard this time. So yeah, I'll be there on Sunday. Stay tuned. I'm going to go live. I'm going to go live for that one. All right, guys, let me see what else we have here. Kick is better than Twitch, pays more than YouTube. I'm not familiar with either of those. I've heard of Twitch, but I'm not on there. I'm not familiar with it. Obviously, I got like over 250,000 subscribers here, which is why I think it's a good place to live stream. But maybe I'll check those out. Hey, Dan, nice to see you live, says RampleSense01. Yes, this it is nice to be back. This is the first live stream I've done on this particular channel in over 3 years because the channel was terminated in 2022 without any kind of warning. So I got to reiterate, guys, and I will continue to reiterate time and time again, please subscribe to me on these other platforms like Rumble, BitChute, and Odyssey. Check the links in the description below. You'll see to where you can subscribe to me on these other platforms, because I'm sure it's just a matter of time for this channel to be deleted from this platform as well. Amen on faith, says Dave. A whole bunch of letters. Jesus is Lord, and all truth and justice is in him. Read the Gospel of John. See if you find anything that Jesus said that was wrong. Excellent challenge. I'd encourage people to read all of the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and just look at it for what it is, historical narrative. You know, and ask yourself, after you read it, does it point to Jesus being reliable? Or, you know, was he a quack, a crazy person who was just blowing smoke, who's, you know, like the Jimmy Jones type character? But the fact that he died and rose from the dead 3 days later, I think adds to his credibility. He appeared to over 500 people over a period of 40 days. And these people were willing to die for what they saw, by the way. In psychology, you may be aware that people are not willing to die for you know, what they know is a lie. But these people saw him with their own eyes, and they were martyred for that. So that adds to the credibility that he is who he said he was. So as I said in my previous video about Hulk Hogan and Ozzy Osbourne, I mentioned that, yeah, he's either crazy and should be ignored, or he's literally God and deserves our worship. So yeah, thank you for that. Amen. Press on to Jesus, says Lamb's Grace. Yep, that's the other meaning to this channel, always has been, and I'm not going to slow down with that. Good to know, Dan, says Bobcat. Why? It's a Republican Twitch. It's exactly what it is. Racism is a lie, says DeSankio. It's tribalism. Andrew Simpson says, they even made new acronyms and featured in new manuals for law enforcement for us whites. They did this before they did the things that they would make whites bad. What a setup. Yeah, again, more of the stuff I'm not going to, you know, shy away from talking about, because it's getting so bad now that we have to call it out for exactly what it is. I would say probably your kids has a better chance if you teach them. Yep, hands down, guaranteed a far better chance. Um, Thank you for that. All right, guys, I think I might call it. I don't know how long we've been going. I did something wrong in setting this up because I was supposed to be streaming to multiple platforms. I should be able to see your comments and super chats coming in, but I'm just relying on this restream chat window. And I saw your comments starting to pop up, so it's like, okay, I guess we are live. Let's just continue here. So yeah, thank you to everybody who's been in on this stream since the beginning. I'm just going to scroll through a little quickly here. Wow, I'm falling behind. Look for any other big kind of questions or comments. Poisonous supplements. Fluoride supplements. Yeah, exactly. It's Christian phobia would be the phonetically correct way, as Jesus is mentioned, is in Islam and Judaism. Yeah, good point. I mean, the Quran obviously talks about Jesus. Muhammad talked about Jesus, but he just refers to him as a good prophet and not who he claimed to be, which is literal God in human form, which is really makes no sense. If you know that Jesus made the claim that he is God in human form, but you reject his deity and then turn around and say he was a good prophet, he was just a good teacher who taught good morals, well, no. If you reject what he said, the truth claim he made, then he should be rejected as a crazy nutbag. He's not a good prophet. I mean, if you don't think he is who he said he was, then he's a liar. He's a con man. He's crazy. He should be in a mental institution. But if he is who he says he was, then he deserves our worship. And as I said, the fact that he died and rose from the dead 3 days later shot his credibility through the roof. So yeah, thank you for that. Let's see. Thank you, Dan, says Melissa. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for all that you do, says Nancy. What happened to Jesse Howe, the missing link? Not too sure who that is or what you're talking about, but I'll check it out. Christphobia would imply a fear of Christ. Yeah, that's a good point. I make the same point about Islamophobia, but people do fear Christ, not in the right way though. I mean, God said the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and that is absolutely true. Some people don't realize fear can be good. I mean, when you are standing on the edge of a cliff and the fear in you is telling you to step back, that's a good thing. When you are in front of a roaring lion, your fear is telling you to get out of its way, that's a good thing. Thanks, Dan. Keep up the great work, says Nancy. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, says Kevin, and the 90s. Canada is unrecognizable. I went home after 5 years, and I grew up in a small town, and even it has changed demographically. Yeah, it's happening quick. It's happening fast. And I'm glad it's not going unnoticed. Truth is the only authority, says Perleth. I agree wholeheartedly, 100%, and I would add truth with a capital T, because Jesus said, I am the truth, the way, and the life, and no one gets to the Father but by me. Andrew Simpson says, keep giving her, Dan. Many watch and like you in Canada, even though there may be some differences between us. Long-time watcher. Respect from New Brunswick. Dan 07. If you've been watching since 2007, yes, you're a long-time viewer. Next year will be my 20th year of Press for Truth. I launched it in 2006, July 4th of 2006. And July 4th, 2026 will be 20 years. Can you guys believe that? It's wild. How's your carnivore diet going? I just finished 30 days. Awesome. How do you feel? I did carnivore for almost 9 months. And I've only recently, in the last little over a month, have gotten off of it. I've started to reintroduce fruits and vegetables again, and I did so for various reasons. There are certain things that are lacking from carnivore, like fiber and electrolytes, but honestly, I'm starting to head back into strict carnivore, because when I went on carnivore, I noticed certain aches and pains disappeared. And like you may notice, I got like redness on my face and stuff. That disappeared when I went full-blown carnivore. And a month ago, I started reintroducing fruits and vegetables again, and all of a sudden it's come back, and certain aches and pains have come back. So I'm like, man, maybe like full-blown carnivore is just what my particular body needs and calls for. So yeah, I've been on it for like 9 months. I was doing great. I recently got off of it, but I think I'm gonna go back to strict carnivore again because for my particular genetic makeup, it seems to work well for me. So yeah, thanks for the question. Let's see. Greetings, Dan. Happy to see you live. The elites make those hand symbols popular so regular people copy it without even knowing the meaning. Yeah, I'm sure that does happen a lot. But in my case, considering, who I am and what I do, I've had to very consciously watch out for that because I sometimes do it mistakenly. Yeah, but I'm aware of that. Julie Mack. Hi, Dan. I feel like I've watched you grow up. I've followed you since you lived in Toronto. You were much bigger then, too. Cheers. Carnivore, by the way, I lost like 40 pounds doing that. I went from 175, which is way too big for somebody who's 5'5", and all the way down to 135. And now I'm somewhere around 140 or 145. I don't know. I haven't checked in a while. Since reintroducing fruits and vegetables, I've gained like 7 or 8 pounds. I can just tell, but I'm at a good place now. I'm right where I want to be. And in fact, I'm going to tone up even more by starting to go to a local gym in town. I'm going to start that up very, very soon. So hopefully I'll be looking even better very, very soon. It's not about looks for me. I don't care, but it's just about health. I want to be around for a long time. He is a vet, Dan, says Andrew Simpson. Yeah, some would say OG. 20 years is a long time, Press for Truth in 2006. And honestly, when I started Press for Truth in 2006, I felt like I was late to the game. I had been, researching and being an activist and doing things since the late 1990s. It was just after, the events of September 11th that I really started getting active, going out in the streets, being an activist, handing out flyers and DVDs and meeting up with like-minded people and all that stuff. And then finally, after 6 years of being an activist, I started Press for Truth, and that was in 2006. So as I said, I've been awake to everything since the late 90s, 1998, as a matter of fact. Started to Press for Truth in 2006. So it's been 19 years, and next year will be 20 years. Pretty crazy. DeSankio says Freemasonry is not the boogeyman that people think it is. It's like people stating that the Order of the Pug is a dangerous group. Also, why did the Freemasons have to go underground, even though we're Christians? Well, that's because of the nature of the degrees. Like even Albert Pike himself, and I read his book, Morals and Dogma, it's there on my shelf, had suggested that it's the lower outer portico who doesn't really understand the true agendas of Freemasonry, which the lower levels are told are just about, fine-tuning your inner light, growing that coal into a diamond, so to speak. But you don't learn until you get up into the higher degrees who the God of Freemasonry truly is and what that light represents. And I can tell you, it's not what they lead on to in the lower degrees. And Freemasons aren't necessarily Christians. As you say, they welcome Christians because they are an ecumenical movement. The only way it can be a global brotherhood and a global fraternity is if they welcome in all and any religion into the order. But, as Christians, we are not to take oaths. We are not to engage in rituals. And it's something that's kind of diametrically opposed to what Jesus taught. Which is why I've been speaking out about it. But you're right. 90% of Freemasons aren't bad people. They're not aware of any kind of nefarious agendas. They're just good old boys who like to go to the local legion and meet up with their buddies and, engage in some acts of philanthropy and stuff like that. And that's great. But again, it's the inner circle of the inner circle, the top 32 and 33 degrees of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry that is cause for concern. Um, do you send out acknowledgments or confirmation whenever someone signs up on a monthly level? Um, I just got my very first one. I'm not sure if you're talking about YouTube, but today is my first. And yes, that is part of what joining as a monthly contributor is going to get you. Shout outs, acknowledgments, and confirmation of that. And if that's something you want me to do, I absolutely will do that to show my appreciation for people's, monthly contributions. Absolutely. Stay safe, says Per Leth. Maybe some killer guitar live next time. Do your followers know that you are also a fine musician? I'm not sure if they know that, but I put out a lot of videos showing my music. I made the music to all 5 of my documentary films. I scored, wrote the music, performed the music, whether that be on guitar or piano or drums. In fact, I made some behind the scenes of the making of my music. So if you just go to the search of my channel, let me see if I could figure out how to show you guys how to do that, because some people might not be necessarily aware. Here. Oh, there's the live. I didn't even know I could see it through there. Okay, I'll click on that in a minute, and maybe I could see the super chats. But right here, if you click on this, this is where you can search my channel. And let's just type in the word music. Do a quick search. Look at that. The Turning Point, soundtrack by Dan Dicks. The whole world is watching. That's the song that you hear at the end of all my videos. I wrote and performed that song. United We Fall soundtrack behind the music. A couple of different songs. Detained by Dan Dicks, Disengage, It's in Your Hands. Into the Fire behind the music is probably the coolest one you could watch. Because I'm really proud of the music that I wrote for my film Into the Fire, which you can see behind me here. The Nation's Deathbed soundtrack. I wrote a song called James Corbett is Not on Twitter, because I was just inspired by him quitting that. But real quick, here's me playing the theme song that you hear at the end of all my videos. Recognize that? We'll get to the part that you might recognize. It's all about truth, and the truth will set you free. Anyways, yeah, you go to my channel, you do a search for music, and again, I would suggest you check out the behind the scenes of United We Fall, The Turning Point, and Into the Fire to see some of my my music. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. By the way, Dan, Re is a reference to Pepe the Frog on 4chan. Okay, now I know. Thank you for that. I was trolled once by a bunch of people on 4chan on a live stream. What are they called? Groypers or something like that? I don't know, but I had all these Pepe frogs showing up in the comment section like crazy. And I was like, what is happening here? Have I been hacked? It was kind of funny, actually. And apparently they appreciated the way I reacted to that, because most people get offended and they're like, get off my stream. What are you doing? And they did that to me, and I just thought it was funny. Okay, let's see. I miss you being in Ontario, Dan, but if I could move, I would too. Seth the Saxon. Yeah, sometimes I miss Toronto, but man, oh man, it's beautiful out here in British Columbia. Like, really beautiful. I now understand why so many people come from Ontario. They come here, and then they never go back. That's kind of where I'm at. Anyways, let's see. Agent Carney, as I call him, sent to get things under control. Yep, good name. Keep up the great work, Dan. I thank you for the truth. Oh yeah, let me go to the YouTube real quick and pull up the live. Let's see. Agent, mute it. Okay, there it is. So now I can see if you get super chats coming in. That's cool. I can see that there are 71 people currently watching. That's cool. And I can see your all your comments coming in, as you can see here, but that might be a little bit weird. So anyways, let's see what else we got. How is it you spell BitChute? Yeah, that's correct. BITCHUTE. Yes, and you could just check the subscription, or sorry, the description below. And I have my BitChute link. I have my Rumble link. I have everything in there. So yeah, go check that out. Let's see. Watched every one you have ever done. Bilderberg, says Andrew Simpson. Wow, you've watched all my Bilderberg videos. That's a lot. I made a documentary film about Bilderberg. If people don't know that, it's called The Turning Point. Available for free on this channel. If anybody hasn't seen it, I get into the Canadian connection to Bilderberg specifically. So check that out. Was on my way to Pioneer Village outside of Peterborough and had to stop by en route. They had 3 fast food places inside and every single employee was Indian. Yeah, it's the same thing here. I was talking about that in a recent video about what it's like to go to a Tim Hortons around here anymore. Like it's totally gone so far downhill that it's ridiculous. And nothing against Indian people, but I mean, like it's almost impossible if you want to get your order correct. Not that I go there or eat there, but I've seen what's going on there, and it's absolutely falling apart. Our phones are reading our minds. Excellent video, says Wendy Darling. Thank you. Yeah, I put that one out, maybe a week ago. And I have lots of other videos on this channel about the dangers of cell phones. One of my most viewed videos, in fact, is about cell phone radiation, and it's a declassified military document that explains what they're actually doing to our minds and our bodies. Go check that one out if you haven't seen it. I think you'll like that one. And you could do so by just going to my channel, and then let's show you. You go to videos, and then you do a search for the most popular. And there it is. Wireless warfare exposed. Declassified military doc proves cell phones are killing mankind. That has 1.9 million views. Again, my second most viewed video is me, talking about what these cell phones are doing, and I show you a declassified military document. So yeah, that's one I think that you will appreciate. All right, guys. Dan, I don't know how your wife can put up with all your travels. She supports me in everything I do. Obviously, before we even met, she knew what I was all about and what I was going to continue doing. She was a huge fan. She was like a Press for Truth fan. When I met her, she had a big Press for Truth tattoo on her forearm. I was like, whoa, you're a mega fan. And that led to, us getting married. But yeah, she understands, what my motives are with Press for Truth, and she knows that that's never going to slow down, and she supports me 100%. And that's why, she's absolutely perfect for me. Hey, Dan, watched you for years, man. Always ahead of the times as a truther before it came mainstream to criticize the establishment. Yeah, thank you for that critical nature. I'm glad you've been around for a long time. I hope you'll be around for a long time more. That reminds me, make sure you guys subscribe on Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey. All of those can be found in the description. If you click on more, read the description, look to where it says subscribe, and join me on those platforms. Because again, I will be terminated once again from this one. Trucker thing was crazy to watch too. Glad you were okay, says TJ. Yeah, I assume you're referencing my footage of the clamp down on the Freedom Convoy, and when the police jabbed me in the side with the baton. That was pretty brutal. I don't know if you remember meeting me, Dan, says Seth the Saxon, at the Trucker Convoy briefly, but you're the GOAT, brother. Best media in Canada, in my opinion. Well, thank you very much for that. I really do appreciate that. I met a lot of people when I went to Ottawa. It was kind of overwhelming. I was pretty shocked and surprised by the amount of people who were approaching me in the streets and, introducing themselves and letting me know that they've been watching for a long time. So that's cool. If I could see your face, I might remember you. But at any rate, thank you for that comment. I appreciate it. Horrible. Carney is crazy or totally brainwashed himself, says Ramplesense. These are going back now. I'm probably following way behind. Most excellent, Dan. Protection secured. Yes, I do have a bodyguard joining me this upcoming Sunday, so that's absolutely fantastic. I'm glad you're going to have a guy with you. Great to catch this live. So good to have you back, says Wendy. Yeah, it's great to be back, but just so you know, I didn't go anywhere. I've been banging out daily videos all these years. It's just because YouTube terminated my channel in 2020 and then again in 2022 that I've apparently been gone for the last 3 years, but I haven't been anywhere. I've just not been here on this particular platform. Yeah, Seth says, wow, 250,000 subscribers and only 80 people watching. I know. This is still heavily shadow banned. Even though they gave it back to me, I'm still being heavily shadow banned. But, you know, it is what it is. What are your thoughts about Candace Owens getting sued by Macron? Speaking of a disguised man. Yeah, very interesting. I haven't done a video on that or looked deeply into it yet, but from what I understand, it's kind of stemming from a couple of people who were making the accusations that his wife is a man, and then a judge ruled in favor of the people saying that. Not that the judge was suggesting that they think that Bridget Macron is a man, but just that those people had a right to say so. So I think Candace has a right to say so as well, and the fact that she's being sued by Macron is really only going to bring more attention to the whole situation. So should be interesting to see how that unravels. But I don't necessarily think that is the case. You know, I've been explaining for a long time that what people need to focus on is the fact that Bridget Macron is a pedophile. That's the real issue. In case you don't know, she met her husband, Macron, when he was like 15 years old, and she was his 40-something-year-old French teacher. Absolutely, she was married with kids at the time that they met. So, like, she groomed him and then put him into the position of a Rothschild bank for in his early career. And I think that's some of the things we should focus on a little more so. Some girl, Lee Stewie, she seems to be up on the live streaming tech. What is current and most effective? Ask her. Lee is a very good friend of mine, Andrew Simpson. We have done many videos together. If you go to my website, let's just try it. Let's do a search for the word Lee and look her up. We recently did a video together. All these videos. Oh, there's me and Lee when we went to the Straight Pride Parade in Boston. We've got dozens and dozens of videos together. In fact, Lee used to be a PFT correspondent. She worked right here at Press for Truth for a little while, a ways back. So yeah, we've got dozens of videos together, dozens. And she used to make videos on behalf of Press for Truth. Back in the day. Yeah, she's great. But I just got to notice that my Mac is dying. I do not have it plugged in. I didn't think I was going to be streaming this long. So I could try to find an extension cord before this thing dies. But I may not have too much time. So maybe we should call it. Plus, next time I do a long live stream, I got to get a proper chair instead of this little stool I'm on. That's just absolutely killing my back. But let me just quickly go through these. Let me see if I can find something real quick. Because I'd like to keep it going. Okay, that's unfortunate. My extension cord isn't where I thought it was. So I don't want this to just all of a sudden die. So maybe we're going to have to call it. Let's see. I've been a viewer from the beginning, says Ramplesense01. That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. Somebody says they lost 10 pounds in 10 days on carnivore. That's awesome. I assume on carnivore. That's awesome. You are an inspiring and eloquent speaker at live events. I recall your talks at the VAG during the COVID pandemic. Yes, thank you. Anytime they've invited me to speak, I went and spoke, and I have a lot of fun doing that. Sort of. I mean, I kind of hate public speaking, but once I get up there, I have fun. Dan, I never knew. I will check it out. Love what I hear so far. Maybe you're talking about the music. But, anyways, yeah, go check it all out. I love that. Didn't know that that was you. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, go check out the behind the scenes of the making of those soundtracks, and you'll see a whole bunch of songs that I wrote just like that one. All right. I'm just quickly scrolling through before we call it because my computer's about to die. And that would be bad because I might not be able to end the stream. I don't know what would happen if that happens. So I think I'm going to call it for today, guys. I just want to thank everybody who's been, again, a loyal viewer for over the years. Again, I cannot continue to do this work without you. If you do appreciate my efforts to do this, there is a Give, Send, Go campaign at the top link in the description. 28 people have contributed so far. Like I said, maybe we can get that up to 30 or 35 today. That would be greatly, greatly appreciated, guys. You can help save and protect Press for Truth as I look to hire people to help me with stuff like what I'm doing today. Help me at events like what I'm going to on Sunday. And again, thank you so much to everybody who has already contributed. 28 people. That's absolutely fantastic. Again, if you go to my website, you can click on the donate tab. You can contribute Bitcoin by clicking on that. You can contribute a one-time donation with PayPal. You can do other cryptocurrencies. You could do an e-transfer to dan@pressfortruth.ca. It's a easy, fantastic way for Canadians to be able to make a contribution. Or if you're old school like me, you can send stuff to my P.O. box. Links for everything are located right there in the description below. And that's all for today, guys. Once again, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Next time we do this live stream, hopefully I'll be on multiple platforms, Odyssey, BitChute, Rumble, and YouTube. But don't forget, just in case, subscribe to me on those other platforms. You can find those links in the description below as well. Check out the music. Thank you, Dirk. Yeah, go check it all out. I think you'll like it. And that's all for today, guys. Once again, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for being loyal viewers and subscribers. I so appreciate the support that comes from you, the viewers. You are why I'm here today and why I'm going to continue to be here for hopefully 20 more years. So thank you so much, everybody. Stay tuned. We're going to have more live streams and more video reports coming